Hello and welcome to Pale Reflections, a proud member of the Doof Network where we reflect on Wildbow's most trim work as it releases. I'm Reuben Morehouse.
And I'm Elliot Diebold.
And we have a special guest with us.
Oh.
Sorry. Well, welcome, Sesh.
Hi, I'm Sesh Evans. I'm a filmmaker, video game streamer, and occasional podcast guest.
Yes, the official guest of the Doof Media Network, I think we can call you. the best go-to guest.
I love it.
Yes, we have brought Sesh to reflect on cutting class with us. Before we dive into your thoughts, Sesh, I think it's best that we give a quick summary of the arc. We're talking about cutting class, which begins with 6.1, where the Kenetiers, tired after all their partying in Arc 5, attend a lesson by Durashay, who lives up to her scary reputation, and Lucy makes a fellow fox friend.
Yes, then we dive into some extra material, and first up, it's the Famulus text, which is where we learn about familiars, all the sorts of variants of those, and, I mean, frankly, just how kind of controlling and gross the practitioner world is.
Then we go into 6.2. Avery wakes up from the group nap first and trolls her socials. As the others wake up, the group cuts class to go hit up the library,
Nice.
like all rebellious young teens do. Between researching the Kenet others, the gang walk in on Alexander leading an impromptu discussion on how to help Jess.
Yes, then the group collectively fails their charisma checks when eating with Yadira and Raquel, but Verona naturally follows it up with a very strong natural 20 intimidation. Then Avery plays some lacrosse with the boys while Lucy and Verona chat with Ted, who is also quite intimidating.
Yep, then it's back to the textbooks to look at implements. We, again, learn how varied they are, sort of what they are, like conceptually how they work. I feel like I'm failing to make these sound exciting, because it's hard to make the textbooks sound exciting, but they are.
We dive into another textbook.
It actually is cool, though.
Yeah.
Then we dive back into another chapter with Lucy and the gang brainstorm implement ideas before hanging out with Corbin and Melody and attending Bristow's self-indulgent class on knots. Afterwards, Lucy meets with Ray for advice, but ends up giving more than she receives.
Great scene, that one. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
In 6.5, we have Avery and Verona planning their contributions to Lucy's implement and attending Alexander's class on how he stole this class from Bristow. The one power play we've seen Alexander make, and it was so sweet. And then all the other cool kids gather to help Jessica find her cousin before this party is unceremoniously crashed by Shelley, who crashes not only the party, but also our spirits.
And then it's back into the textbooks for the third and final one, the domain textbook, which, again, tells us all the cool stuff with domains and how they work. And there's really cool examples. They are cool, I promise.
Then the Kenetiers hang out and give Matt and Edith a call, which goes so well they end up with an offer for a house. Energized by the talk and the offer, the gang, this word, Alcazars, that's right. Alcazars into Avery's photograph where we see Edith and the scene of the crime. I was like, what is this Harry Potter word?
Yeah. Taking these words from the written and turning them into the spoken word can sometimes be confusing.
It's funny how you never realize until you actually have to say it. Like, I've even written these scripts and then you get to the point where you have to say it and you're like, I don't know how to say this word.
A demesne. Oh, yes, right.
Yes, those.
Right, so in 6.7, Lucy begins the implement ritual finally, and we see what this ritual is going to be a bit. We see a first example of this earring whispering her secrets in her life as we dive back in time to a class/battle arena, based Hunger Games kind of vibe, where the students all have to battle each other and bind each other. Lucy learns to trust her instincts and reads on people.
Yep, but then we dive back in with Lucy in 6.8, where we see a lot more of the implement ritual. It's kind of her earring just puts her in a bunch of situations and tells her to deal with it. We get, The Office meets The Purge, some remixes of old school stuff, a scene with Paul that was awful, and there's even a wedding episode.
Then 6.9, nice. Avery leads the Kenetiers as they step outside and try to figure out what happened over the weekend. but nobody will tell them.
Yes. Then we dive into the bonus material, a non-textbook bonus material. Whoa. It's binding in countermeasures. It is much, much worse than a textbook because the Kenetiers have to collect dirt on each of their friends and hope that they never have to use it. But knowing Wildbow and knowing how just things go, almost certainly they will have to use some of this dirt.
And then we end off the arc with 6 Z, where we get in Fernanda's head and she rejects the idea of having a family. And also, Alexander acts in a way that is totally moral and defensible.
I agree.
These are my
Elliot. Good
own
point.
words.
So, Sesh, what did you think of Cutting Class?
Oh, this might have been one of my favorite chapters, or arcs. I mean, I really enjoyed it just for like the character study of it. Like, I think the implement journey was amazing and my highlight of the whole thing.
Yeah, I'd almost call it the highlight of the story so far. I think those 2 chapters were just phenomenal.
I'm so glad it was 2. It deserved it,
Yeah.
and I want more.
Yeah, you're right, Elliot. It was kind of like a set of special episodes, and I absolutely love that vibe of just completely unrestrained. Hey, what would you do in this situation? Hey, what would you do in this situation? Like, something I've always said is the reason I love science fiction and fantasy is because it lets you examine moral and philosophical questions unconstrained by the bounds of like reality, right? And that's just exactly what that ritual was. Literally, hey, Lucy, I'm going to put you in a weird situation that's not confined by reality. What are you going to do?
I love it too because it's also not just what are you going to do, but what are you going to want to do? Like, what kind of person do you want to be with it? Which is just, it's so interesting. Like, what would I love to do in this situation rather than just, going crazy or doing what she feels like doing now? Like, she was so thoughtful about all of her actions.
Yeah, it's such a great mechanic to just do a character study. And as was also said, it's like it was 2 chapters, but I'm not gonna lie, I was still a little disappointed when we get to that bit in 6.8 and it starts skipping them because like there's this implication that there were like days more of scenarios, and I was like, okay, I guess we can't spend like 4 arcs just doing Lucy's implement ritual. But if Wildbow had decided otherwise, I probably would have gone along with it.
Same, definitely the same. It makes me really, really excited for the others and our other Kenetiers, I mean, and seeing theirs. Like, I really do I don't want us to skip through them.
Yeah, you're right. It's interesting that I have this picture in my head of like, oh, the domain ritual is probably going to be really simple, or the familiar ritual is probably going to be really straightforward. But I thought that when we were going into the implement ritual, and then we find out it's like a 2 or 3 day long thing, and I was like, what's this going to be? And then of course it delivers in the best possible way. So I'm sure that my vibes that these other 2 rituals are also going to be very straightforward is just completely wrong.
Well, I guess if you think about like a wedding, like if you compare the familiar ritual to a wedding, which sort of happens, like yes, there's like just the ceremony, which might go for an hour or something, but you've got all the other crap around it. Like, what's all that other stuff that you have to do? Like, I wonder if the familiar ritual mirrors wedding traditions in any way.
Oh, that's a good question. I wonder. I'm very curious about it. Like, I want to see the deep dive of what that is. Like, I do have like a couple of notes here on where I think the big 3 things will go with all the girls, and Lucy has her implement. I think we really do need with Snowdrop for her familiar status to be formalized, and I am so interested to see that. Like, I want to see it so much so, and I think she's someone that can, in a way, kind of be shared. Like, all of them need to share these different 3 things in some way while someone still takes point. And I think Snowdrop can absolutely do that. Like, she gets along with everyone, all of our Kenetiers at least.
Yeah, that definitely tracks in the sense that she already is kind of not just Avery's companion, right? She is a companion to the entire group. Yes, she's mostly Avery's, but she's not, completely dissimilar.
I wonder if Verona and Lucy would be like maids of honor or like the in-laws or something. I don't know.
Again, the question that raises, and one that I've found myself butting up against throughout this entire arc, is how the hell is this going to work for a domain?
I have ideas.
Oh yeah,
I
okay.
have
What do you
ideas.
got?
So one, I'm very, very glad that they got that out of the way, that like property ownership is like, oh, here, we're some adults. Let's just give you some property because you're children and you can't own it, but we can give it to you. I thought that was perfect, and that's been like hanging over my head. I love how this world interacts with the real world. It makes me very happy with stuff like that. So my idea with that is the center would be maybe everyone's, like picture kind of like a sun, and then maybe like 3 different spikes, and each of those spikes would be one of theirs. But I think what's going to happen is that Verona is going to be the main one for the domain. Like, she, unlike the others, doesn't really have that home that feels like home. I think she needs it, unlike the other 2. So I think it's going to end up being a default her spot.
That makes
Interesting.
sense.
Yeah, I guess I've been thinking about it from the perspective of Verona just doesn't want to get tied down, and therefore there's no way a domain is going to work for her. But maybe the right way to think of it is instead, Verona doesn't want to get tied down because she hasn't found a positive place that she would want to spend time. And of course a domain would do that for her because it's a magical house. Like, of course that's what she wants.
Absolutely. And like, as much as I love Alfie and like she's great, I don't necessarily feel a lot of like, I don't feel like they're necessarily like on the same page with all these things like we've seen with other familiars. Like, they wouldn't be finishing each other's sentences. Like, they totally get along and they're buddies, but I think in the same way that Lucy and Verona are, where they're sort of opposites in a lot of ways. Like, there was a comment from Lucy earlier how like she couldn't picture herself marrying an unkempt guy in the future. Like, she wouldn't find him reliable. And then like next chapter we're describing Verona. It's like, well,
burn. But yeah, an accurate burn.
Yeah, I think Verona might have been doing that equivalent on like crushing on the first person that like is nice to you.
Yes.
Like, you find out, oh, there's others, and you can get one that's a familiar, and it's like, oh well, Alpy was nice. I'll tie myself to her forever to her.
Yeah, that's a bit of an extreme reaction.
But
yeah, she's sort of impulsive, but I think it's more that she's just kind of wandering, and I think it's because she doesn't have that home vibe,
Yeah, I'm just curious to see how the other 2 might get worked in. Like, they talked about, living there. Like, I guess, to what you talked about before. I wonder if you can have like granny flats out the back in a domain. Is that like you can lease out a bit of space to the other 2?
Right? Like, like they're allowed to have like homes and houses, right? And those can have different bedrooms, and those different bedrooms can have different people in them. Like, they're meant for families usually, right? So it makes sense.
But like, I guess the other thing is, you'd almost need Lucy and Avery to definitely have their own space, because if you get to turn your domain into like whatever sort of space you want, like if they're not holding Verona to account, she's going to make it some weird like Halloween house type shit, right? Like, I wouldn't.
But maybe
oh my
that's
gosh.
fine.
Okay, so for her ritual for this, we're gonna get to actually see what she does. How exciting would that be?
I mean, yeah, I definitely just want to dive into these rituals for all of them, like legitimately.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'd be happy to see all 3 of them do all 3.
Yes, I still kind of want that, but I'm not asking for too much of it. But...
No, yeah.
I mean, it's Christmas, so maybe we can, get a nice gift from Wildbow.
I don't reasonably expect it, but I'd love it.
Happily, yes.
All right. What other thoughts have we got about cutting class? What else should we dive into?
Well, I think I finally decided what side of the fence I'm on with Alexander. I think the way he was able to forswear people out of spite, I'd say, he's basically just the worst. This wasn't like a breaking point for him. This wasn't like a life or death situation. This wasn't at all something he needed to do, or that he was under pressure. Like, when somebody like is put under pressure, and that's like the worst self that comes out. That wasn't him at this moment. He knew there was going to be a play for the school. He knew people were going to betray him, and he just calmly did it. I am so scared about what he's going to do next.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Like, I just don't see a situation. I don't see the situation as this having been absolutely necessary,
Mm,
especially to your own
yeah.
nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fair. We've had just literally today as we're recording this, we've had a lot of back and forth discussion in the Discord about this very thing. Because surprisingly people were surprised by my take in our most recent episode that maybe this isn't necessarily the worst thing. I don't know.
I
I know
think
I'm on the unpopular side of this argument here.
See, here's the thing. He could have just threatened to do it. He could have been like, "Oh, I have this, and I'm gonna have that hanging over your head. So don't totally betray me. Just, bye."
He did. I mean, he didn't fully do that, but he did do a version of that, Sesh, right? Where he says, "I'm prepared to forswear you, Seth," and Seth's response is, "Yeah, come on, then do it, mate." Basically, but no, you're right. It's rough. It's definitely not a thing that a hero would do.
No.
Yeah.
He's gonna be interesting later. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just kind of reinforces to us this idea that Alexander's the kind of person who plays with cards up his sleeve, right? We've seen the card that he had up his sleeve for Seth, and it's definitely true that he didn't even seem like he wasn't backed into using it. He just did it, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, I'm curious what cards he'll play when he gets really backed into a corner. We'll have to see.
It also,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say he didn't even get anything out of it, right? Maybe a bit of a power boost. He seemed like
Yes.
unsure about that, but it's more he destroyed Seth's whole life just to make sure Seth couldn't go to Bristow.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit as an example, because I think it was a big overreaction. So I think he has like bigger things in mind, and he was sort of just flaunting a little bit.
Yeah, I think he explicitly says it's kind of mostly a warning to the other three that have just defected of like, hey, this is what you're up against. Like, don't get too high and mighty. Don't get too secure in your position with Bristow, because if I wanted to, I could probably fuck you all over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose he wants them to keep a toe out of the water in Bristow's camp and like leave themselves open to, double crossing Bristow. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting that you raised that idea, Elliot. Do we think that there's any, what is it? I guess a triple agent. Do we think that there are any triple agents among Bristow's gang now? Or is that too crazy?
Ooh, maybe Chase.
See, I wouldn't have thought it before the interlude, but now that you've said it, I'm kind of like, I can see Chase having depth that none of us imagined that he has.
With the interlude,
he's gonna get fucking snaped, right? Like,
he
thought
might.
he was just this piece of shit, but actually he's a piece of shit, but also is secretly good.
Well, what was funny is like him defecting is like the one good thing we've seen him do. Like he kind of did that for his family, not for him. So it'd be kind of hilarious if that was a lie. It was like the first semi-good thing he's done. So no.
Oh, that would be so juicy. That makes it more likely, right? The fact that the one non-selfish thing he's done could actually just secretly be a power play. I love that idea.
No, I actually think they're probably all just turned, but like that's the whole thing with practitioners is they'll just go wherever they see like is best for them. So like as soon as Alexander can present himself as the better offer, I could see a bunch of people going back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. That's how they are.
I love Alexander though. I can't help it. Like,
he's fun.
He's just so much fun to have as a character, especially because he's not in active opposition to our trio. Like, the fact that he's just a piece of shit that's kind of out there doing his own thing, I'm kind of on board with.
Yeah, he looks a lot better with Bristow beside him, that's for sure.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's what it is, right? Bristow is just terrible in comparison. At least Alexander, I mean, it comes down to this for me. At least Alexander pretends to be nice, right? Like, at least he pretends to be nice most of the time. That's enough for me to think that there's something in there. At least he has an understanding of right and wrong, and he can pretend to be on the good side sometimes. Because Bristow just doesn't see any problem with what he's doing, to the extent that it's unclear whether he even knows if what he's doing is wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could agree with that. I'm excited to see both of them do a lot more.
Oh yeah, as
Yeah.
this war starts to kick off,
Yep.
it's surely going to be amazing.
But it's crazy that we're referring to it as starting to kick off when, by all accounts, it's already over, right? Like, every character in the story is like, yeah, it's been decided, but that's just clearly not, like, emotionally where it feels like it is.
Well, that's
Right.
because the 3 real players just showed
The
up.
3 characters haven't gotten involved.
It'd be really funny, actually, if, like, their whole arc, like, the whole school and having that is just completely on the sidelines the entire story, and our Kenneteers never actually really get involved. It's all just hearsay, and they're just like, oh, now this guy's teaching because the other guy was just, forsworn yesterday. All right.
Yeah, they just have a rotating door of teachers, and we never really find out what's going on. We just see this. All it's used for is as a kind of guest teacher of the week kind of vibe.
Well, they just get sick of it. It's like 2 days of lessons, and they're like, "This is crap. Now let's go home." And then we just go back to the murder mystery.
Let the school be like, oh, that place was a mess.
Yeah, this place sucks. Let's go.
That's so funny. Let's see. I did make a couple of other little things. I basically wrote everything down, so I know I got a lot here, but
no, this is great.
About all of it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. So one of the things I think I did notice it coming up more in this arc is I thought it was very interesting that of our 3 animals that the trio chose for their mask/spirit animal, Avery, the deer, is our only herbivore and has started to become a vegetarian.
I can't believe I didn't notice that. That's such a good pick.
Interesting. I like it. What a fun catch.
It was so interesting. Well, because I mean, it's kind of how it happened with me. I just kind of stopped eating meat. I was like, "Do you just not have a meat? Do you have like a vegetarian option?" And you just start asking and asking, and all of a sudden, you're just not eating meat anymore. Like, that's exactly how it happened to me. So I'm just like, "Oh heck yeah, grilled portobello mushroom burgers! I'm into this." I like that a lot, and I do see like with her the story moving forward, because originally I like thought about this, but I didn't connect it till later on. Is that Avery's? I mean, we know she's kind of the oddball out. Like, we didn't really know this very, very early on. It's become more and more clear, and I thought of it for like the animals too, like especially. Because in my head, I'm like, why didn't Lucy go with like a wolf instead of like a fox? But it was interesting to me because foxes, like, they are related to dogs, like they are canine, but they actually have a lot of evolutionary traits that are more like cats. So like they're, both of those two are these like crafty, clever little predators, and maybe omnivores a little bit, and then we have a deer. It's just totally different.
Interesting. I like that. Good animal symbolism. I'm trying to think what are the things that come to mind when I think of cats or foxes, and see if we can see them presenting more in the personalities of the corresponding Kenneteers. But I love the vegetarian one. It's so good.
I mean, Verona seems like the easiest to me. Like, she is. I mean, there's a reason she keeps just turning into a cat. It's because she's already halfway there.
She's very much a cat, yes.
I mean, she basically will just lie in a sunbeam, pretty much. Yeah. So I do kind of see that.
But this also makes me realize, like, have they pulled out the masks at all at school yet? Like, everyone's going on about how powerful they are, but I don't think they've put on their full kit. Or did they in the tournament chapter?
I thought that they did. I'm pretty bad about keeping track of that.
Yes, me too. They definitely haven't been, unless it's like to the point where they've just started wearing them so much that they're not commenting on them. I definitely haven't seen them that much. So it's like, you're right. They're fighting with effectively one hand behind their back kind of vibe.
Lucy definitely wore her mask in 6.7. I've just Control-F mask. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, it just makes me think, because it's funny. Like, I remember Alexander had that whole thing because when he first saw them in like 2.Z, he was trying to figure out what the masks were, because I think when they first awoke, we were told people usually do it naked, and so
Mm,
that's like they're more
Mhm.
powerful when they're in their masks and their capes because that's how they awoke.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I just think it'd be hilarious, like if the war starts up at the school and stuff starts to get serious, and they put on these goofy capes and masks, and everyone's going to be like, "What are you doing?"
That's been my thought this whole book.
I
They're
can't wait
just
to see
walking around with
actual.
masks.
I can't wait to see actual witches and wizards comment on it though. It's like, what are you
I
doing?
mean, yeah, right. Like they're gonna legitimately get into some Harry Potter shit.
I
I
just want
wonder
one of
if.
them. I just want one of them to poke fun, like, "Where's your wand?"
Well, do you think like if they put on their masks and appear, people are going to make fun of them at the school? Like, I can kind of see it where
I
it's
would.
just so strange.
Somebody runs off to like the custodial storage room and grabs a broom for them.
Yeah, like I can't remember in any of this world reading about wearing a mask like that.
Yeah, I think it's quite
Yeah,
unique.
it seems unique. I mean, I guess the closest we have to it is just the concept of like an implement in general, right? Where it's this thing that is a kind of part of your identity, and so you keep it around with you because you're not, to an extent, whole without it. It does feel like the way that these Kenneteers awoke is kind of implement light or domain light. You know, they've got their masks, which are their equivalent
Mhm.
of an implement. They've got Kenet, which is their light version of a domain. They've got Snowdrop, which is kind of their light version of a familiar, or just even all of the townspeople in general are kind of a
Yeah,
familiar to them. Um,
that's actually a really good thought because they kind of
Yeah.
interacted with them specifically during the awakening. Yeah, I like that.
I do like
yeah,
that. Yeah, it's also different with these three. Like everything that they're doing seems just it's totally different. Like it's not getting like the in-depth normal anything that we're supposed to be getting like diving into this world if we followed any other characters.
yeah. Almost to the extent that I wonder if their embracing of an implement domain and familiar in the traditional sense is to some extent them moving away from this more unique relationship with Kenet that they have and more into a traditional like practitioner box.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I wonder what that means.
Mm.
Precedences.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is the fun part of this part of the story, right? Is the more time they spend at the Blue Heron Institute, the more they are unintentionally somewhat moving away from, their origin story of being best friends with all these others, right? They are learning things like binding that we know are making the Kenet others uncomfortable. So I'm eager to see the ramifications of that kind of drifting away, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Especially,
I don't feel like they're digging deeply at all. Well, they're digging deep, but they're not buying into the otherism
Mm.
that's
Yes.
going on in all of the studies and all of the attitudes of everyone at this entire school.
Mm.
Yeah, but it definitely feels like when they go back to Kennet properly, they're going to be more powerful and more learned, and the dynamic of the town has changed. Like we've got all these new others, like things are much more on ice since Sharon ruined all the barrier stuff. So it's going to be
Uh,
like a fundamentally different dynamic between them and the others.
yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting. I think that it's probably good for them that there's more there, but I think that the others might possibly be a little bit more reserved with our Kenneteers after learning about all these bindings and going to the brainwash school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess I had the same thought, but then also this is the arc where Matthew and Edith offered to buy them a house, so who knows what their
They're
reaction's
just
going
trying
to
to bribe them early on.
be. Uh,
I also I love that house bit because I think we've talked about this before, Ruben. But it's like immediately after Edith's like, "Let's buy them a house," then we get that thing where it's like, "Oh, and a reminder: Edith was at like the murder scene
yeah,
just before the
yeah,
murder happened."
yeah. Edith is definitely
Bribes.
suspect number one, and she's trying to pay you off with a house.
Yeah, so I can't view the
Bribes.
house as like a good thing because it's like just after we got the house offer that it's like, "Oh, but remember, Edith probably done it."
Mm.
I love the house offer. I think it's so fun. Because I swear it was bothering me because I'm like, they need this, but how are they going to get this until another 5 years from now? Ugh.
Hmm.
I love it. I love that like little real world, like loose end just is completely tied up right away. Just like, nope, it's taken care of.
Yeah, we can actually like have conversations about like the practicality of it now because
Mm-hmm.
that barrier has been taken away.
Love it. Yeah, this one did have some very interesting ideas too. Like the concepts of binding, I thought were really interesting and a lot broader than I was thinking before. Like seeing it in action and seeing teachers talk about it, like the idea of just social norms being able to bind someone. I think is like the lesson I took from that class, where, you know, the lesson is literally, no, I said you should leave if you don't know how to handle this, and y'all stayed here because you're students and I'm a teacher. Like, that's it. Like, they were literally bound by those social norms.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. The idea, I mean, it's explicitly, we've kind of thought about the idea of, you know, especially with relation to practitioners and others and the kind of, in air quotes, natural order that these systems have emerged into. We're literally making it text that these systems of like labels of teacher and student and stuff like this is just a construction that can be challenged and it has power, but only because it's kind of bought into, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, these things should be challenged.
Yeah, very interesting concept. I really like that one a lot.
It also just shows like how obsessed with power dynamics and relationships, I guess Durocher is and was trying to impart on everyone else. That she's like, you need to think about every interaction in terms of who's binding who and who's on top and who's below. And it's just like, that must be exhausting.
Oh, yeah. Some people just think like that, though. Like, real world, people live like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that concept. Like, that to me is almost like such a fun concept. I'm not quite on par with like the you can't lie. Like, lying loses you your power and how great that is for a storytelling device. But this is super interesting too, I think.
Yeah, well, and because you're right, it goes to all those other things like there's the counting coup and the claim, and like you can make conversations yours by weaving in like your catchphrase into them, and it's just like,
Yeah.
like there's so much to everything.
Yeah, like it's all just like the ritual of it, the making a habit of things, the social norms of something, and just absolutely just taking those things into consideration is like just normal etiquette, like not just out of politeness, but out of power. It's just such an interesting twist on it.
I wonder if I feel like we have these concepts of coup and claim and binding and stuff like this. Like, this is another thing that makes it feel like this war isn't over, right? It's because these ideas have been narratively introduced, but we haven't yet had the moment where, for example, Bristow tries to use his claim over his tenants, and maybe the Kenetiers have some claim over Clem, or Alexander has some claim over the Kenetiers, or some narrative payoff to these concepts that have been introduced. Some of them I don't think it's fully necessary. I mean, maybe binding will pay off with, for example, the Kenet others, but yeah, I feel like, especially with this coup stuff, there just hasn't been enough of a dramatic flourish to its introduction to feel like it's fully served its purpose, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I definitely feel like we're gonna get more of that. There's gonna be a comeback, and it's gonna be bigger.
And we've got Bristow and Verona's little competition sitting in the background as well. The gainsaying that's going to affect them if she can't make Bristow regret going to Kenet or sending people to Kenet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's too many dangling threads. I mean, there's got to be a showdown, right? I just want it.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff. I think there's so many more seeds that have been planted that we're just not seeing.
So we've touched on this arc a fair amount, Sesh. I'm curious if there's any more general stuff that we should dive into.
I do have some. I mean, some of it's just concepts. Like, we haven't seen a lot of, say, Verona's dad in this arc.
And I was really sad by that. Yeah, right? Like,
yes.
I wish I had more of him in this story.
I miss it.
Do you?
That was too far, Elliot.
Yeah, well, forsworn.
Uh,
Yeah, like I mean, I have a lot of little predictions, of course, and one of my little bold predictions is we might not see him again.
Ooh.
Because yeah, that was a pretty rough chapter last time we did get to see him, and he's just honestly like he's just one of my favorite Wildbow best worst real life like lame ass people ever. Like Wildbow's been able to make a couple of people like that throughout his stories, and man, he's one of them. Like he's so realistic. The
yeah,
way
he's
he like
he's definitely in the Wildbow Hall of Fame of bad parents.
Which is a
yes, that
packed
too.
fucking hall.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's a big list.
I didn't know
But
there was still room in there.
it is funny how people like Verona's dad and Paul as well just upset you so much more than like the giant monsters that attack them or something.
Yeah.
There's something much more
Absolutely.
horrifying
It's because
about
we
Verona's
know
dad.
them. They're real. Like we can pinpoint. Like, oh, this person is just like that one jerk. Oh, I hate them so much. Like, there's literally like, like the way he like Verona's dad like wants everyone to just do things for him by way of pity. How he keeps score of every half nice thing he does, and is just unreasonable with how far he wants everyone else to go above and beyond with how much they love him, and just forcing them to prove it all the time, and it's just all the guilt trips. Oh my goodness, he's so realistic. He's so annoyingly realistic as a person.
It's like just after you brought up like since Verona like abandoned him, we haven't gotten even a scrap of an update. Like, you think it would have come up that he needed to hire help or
She
was
blocked it,
just
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
like that's
guess.
why
I
I'm
mean,
just like, dude, like she has like no home. Like that was like, I think, I don't know. Like I think she may have done something a little bit too impulsive, because I think like I said, there's a chance she's just not going to see him again.
Yeah, well, it's been. I mean, yeah, it's been a week, and we have no updates. We have no idea what it could look like when she gets back.
Yeah.
yeah, I remember every single Verona chapter we had at least some brief mention or interaction with her dad, and we just haven't.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
I,
the connections, she's like trying to block and break that connection. Like I feel like there was the blocking the connection, but then like the way she left and didn't I don't think we got any verification of anything either. Like it actually felt more like not just blocking it, but like breaking that connection. Like it sucks because it's like she obviously doesn't hate him, but geez.
yeah,
Mm.
but then yeah, on the other hand, like where he was at, like I don't know, breaking ties might just be what you have to do. Like, because fixing him, I just don't know how feasible that was anymore. Not that it's going to make things better for him losing Verona, but it's certainly going to make things better for her. And Edith's going to buy her a nice new house, so it's all fine.
She won't even have to go back. How great is that? Nothing sad or depressing about any of that. Oh man. Yeah, I think gosh, there was another thing that kind of came up. I sort of finally was able to put into a thought, I think during this chapter. It's a lot more scary and sad, I'd say, than I realized to be an other than I thought.
Mm,
Like I had this thought when I was thinking about the practitioner school and how others just don't have that. They don't have schools.
Mm.
That combined with like all the reading on the familiar relationships, like marriages with a master and a servant. Ha 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 ha.
yep.
Like others others like don't have like this central hub to connect to each other and to learn from. They don't have like a safety net, like there's no learning resources, they don't have like a general community like the humans have made for themselves. Like just typically they're more on their own. And like I think that was something that was talked about a little bit earlier about like, wow, why would they want to be bound like at all, or like even like be a familiar and like be tied down? And it's like crap, like I think it gets them out of like all these scary situations, like that you hook up with this one person so you don't have to hook up with that person that's way worse. Like they're just women in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, like for sure. Like I think the familiar ritual was kind of framed as like you become the familiar, and then you don't have to deal with any of the other bullshit for however long you're that practitioner's familiar. So as long as you can find a practitioner who's not a turd, um, it's a pretty good deal just because of how terribly others are treated in general.
Yeah. It's like, ooh, you could be a servant. Hopefully you'll get a good master.
Yep.
Like what a scary existence.
Mm. Yeah, I guess. I mean, we had Fernanda in this chapter who talked about how basically if she didn't do enough to prove herself, she would be married off, and that would be the only value she added to the family, or that would be the way that the family kind of extracted value from her.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's not too dissimilar to what others have as kind of career prospects, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
practitioners are
yeah,
equal opportunity terrible. You know, they'll
yes,
do it to themselves
yes.
as well.
Family, all of that. It doesn't matter to them.
Mm,
Yeah, it was very interesting because it's definitely we're getting like even just in this short amount of time we've seen so much from the others side of things, and now we're seeing like the deep diving into what the literal text of things say about the others, and it's so different.
Mm. And not good.
No. It's not good for our creepy other friends.
mm. Should we dive into some predictions? I love one of the things that we often do when we get these reflections episodes is force our guests to make some wild predictions.
Got
I actually
some.
see, Sesh, you've got a prediction you're requiring from us, which is a bit of a turnaround, but I'll allow it.
It's a minor one for me, so it's my way to make us all talk about it.
What have you got for us?
So I was wondering, because I think this might be something that'll happen. Who do you think is most likely to mess up and cause big trouble for the other two of our trio? And how so?
Hmm.
It's interesting. I've definitely been enjoying the fact that there hasn't been any rift between these three that is unrecoverable. So hopefully, if there is a mess up that causes big trouble, it's something that the group can reunite to get past together.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, I just kind of think it would be Verona, right? Like, I'm sorry, Verona, but she seems to be the most not careless, maybe carefree of the group.
She seems to me like the one who would be the most likely to bite off more than she can chew.
Mm,
Like she'd do
Mm-hmm.
something thinking it'll probably be fine, and there's some factor she forgot to consider, and it's not. Um,
yeah.
but I mean, I think
Yeah.
Avery's in with a shot. Avery can freeze up and I guess not really consider things. I mean, there was that whole thing in Arc 2 with the fairy. That might be the closest they've come so far to one of them doing something really, really
Yes.
stupid.
Mm,
Yeah, I think that's probably the closest they've come. I have a semi prediction that Verona might do something like something I think that is gonna maybe make Lucy also a cat. Something like that, where then all of a
ooh.
sudden, like Avery has to step up and be group mom, kind of instead of Lucy. And they could just both be really pissed at her, where she's like, I'm also a cat. Isn't this great though? Or
Interesting.
something in that league. I think something might happen where like their roles are switched in some way that is definitely her fault. And she didn't quite realize that that was going to be an issue.
How tragic would it be if Verona accidentally gets Lucy turned into an other? Like,
Oh,
oh,
I kind of
yikes.
thought about that. That's a small maybe in my prediction book. I said something like this isn't going to be like a full story thing or like a rest of the story thing, which something like that would be, because that'd be a big bad. That'd be a big bad, not a little bad.
Oh man, yeah, that would be a lot.
Yeah, I think I do think it'd be her too, because I think like what we've seen, we've seen now Lucy, like she's had her self-discovery ritual, so she has like a better sense of herself. I think that's something that's just people need time to reflect and self-analyze to be able to grow and be more harmonious with themselves, like IRL life lessons. And I
Yeah.
don't feel like Verona's quite had that yet. I think with Avery, she didn't realize she went through it, but I think she kind of did.
Yeah, I think the Forest Ribbon Trail was
Mhm.
similar in some ways.
Yeah, like we had like a lot of um I think I broke this up in a couple of parts, but I think we've had some very like great Lucy and Avery character growth and realization in this way. I say growth and not development because Verona is like also amazingly developed, but she hasn't gotten like her own core yet, like Lucy has, or like Avery was able to. Like Avery was able to articulate something about like her core self and about wanting to always try to be good, and that's a self-realization, like to know that about yourself and like to kind of make that promise to yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, well, because I suppose you're like I think Arc 5, all the stuff with Daniel and Clem did sort of play off Verona's whole thing of wanting to become an other, but it wasn't like as explicit as one of these fantastic rituals that forces you to analyze yourself.
Yeah, like
Um,
I'm so excited for when we actually get the chance where Verona is forced to be with her own thoughts and think of herself and consider herself and these things.
I mean, how great! Like, I wish the implement ritual was real so that I could like just do it because there was the whole thing where Lucy could just cancel it apparently at any time, and I'm sure there's some consequences, but like a 3-day retreat of like literal self discovery like that sounds actually very valuable.
It sounds amazing. I want to do that for sure. And I loved what her implement was so much and the perks of it. Like because I I read the chapter about all the implements and seeing what ones would fit me, of course, as everyone should do when they read that.
Hmm.
And like nothing was really as good as that. Like I thought like maybe rings because I like rings probably more than earrings, but it's great. And then that little perk, I'm like, oh, well, maybe that's even a better perk than like what a ring would do. Like, it didn't even mention like pens or like fountain pens or like anything like that. And that's what I was
Mm.
sort of leaning towards. So even with like Lucy's implement, I'm like, this is better than what was in the book. I'm down. I'm so down for it.
Well, I've been rereading Arc 2 as well, and it's so obvious that she has like a thing with eavesdropping, even in Arc
Mm.
2, that I'm like shocked I didn't see anyone guess it as well. I just reread the chapter. There's like a whole scene where Aunt Heather's in the house and
Oh,
like
yeah.
Lucy is listening to her mom and Aunt Heather have a
Yep.
conversation. And there's just so many things like that. I'm just like, oh, it was right there. Like,
It really was.
yeah, Wildbow's been planting this seed the whole time and we didn't even notice.
He's so good at that.
I wonder if Verona does get the domain. Like, I wonder if like how she decorates it will be her version of one of these self discovery rituals. Like, you need to confront
Yeah.
yourself to, like, yeah, I guess does she have to figure out how she furnishes domain and what that looks like?
Oh my gosh, just think about how important that would be for her. Like she doesn't have like a lot of like stuff. Like remember like there's been talks about like her clothing and like how few like shirts and like jeans and stuff she has.
Hmm.
Like just to be able to fill out a place.
I think she has a collection of skulls. Am I misremembering that? I think they touched on it in Arc 1. I think she collects skulls.
Oh,
No, I
I
think
want to
you're
see
right.
it. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
I
her
want to see what
domain is
she
just
does.
whack.
I
Yeah,
know. That's
absolutely.
I'm doubling down on how much I want this.
If anyone's going to build the sort of domain we need to see, it is Verona.
Yes. 100%.
Um, something else we should discuss. A common question that we always dive into is, who's your favorite Kenetia Sesh?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Hmm. I do weirdly relate a lot to Avery. Like her now becoming a vegetarian, her I was sporty as a kid, and funny enough, also homeschooled. But I'm such a fan of Lucy. Like she's so fun, and especially on this little self-discovery journey that she went on, I was just she's like a 13-year-old hero of mine. She's great. Like I'm a big fan of her, and like, oh man, like even like just like her aesthetic. I'm more inspired to like draw her as far as Pale Reflections imagery goes than like anything else I've seen so far in it. And like just with like the hair and like all of the mist and the fox, like it's and all the red. She's just a badass.
I definitely agree that it's weird how much I look up to Lucy as a role model.
She's the group mom. I love it. Yeah, I have the most fun with her.
What about you, Reuben? Have you where are you sitting at these days?
So this arc has been even more a dive into what makes Lucy great, and therefore I'm just even more of a Lucy stan than I used to be. Like continuously, and over the course of this arc in particular, it's just the Lucy's awesome show. So yeah, I'm fully on board with Team Lucy.
And you?
I'm still sitting in Verona's corner. I agree. I love Lucy and I look up to her, but I think Verona's just the one I relate to the most. Verona just is on the same level as me, and I love everything she does.
She is a lot of fun. All of them combined are they're so fun. They're great together. I will say with Lucy, I thought after reading about the implements and like the different options that we might be presented, like maybe there was an implement we were going to see in the book that Lucy might be getting. We didn't know at the time. I did almost think that she would have gone just pedal to the metal and actually did a sword. It might, but yeah. I only think that instead of like any of these other things, because a lot of the other weapons were just weapons, but a sword was it was an offense and defense implement. Yeah. So I was thinking that might be something for her, but like, oh man, thoughts were blown out of the park. Like just the earrings and the eavesdropping, so perfect. And even speaking again, like on her like aesthetic, like having something that's giving her confidence in like the way she looks, because she does take so much of that into consideration. It's just so perfect.
Yeah,
it was.
It's great. Let's talk about the name of the arc, Cutting Class. It's worth us diving into the meaning of this arc and this arc title and trying to dive into what we think the hidden meanings of this might be. So obviously cutting class is an expression that means skipping class or wagging or jigging, which is what we used to call it in school, but I've learned this is not a common expression that anyone else seems to know.
Not in the US.
No,
what do you call it in the US?
It's cutting class, skipping class.
Oh, you don't have any cool words for it?
Oh,
that's
gosh.
Sad.
I wasn't a cool person, though.
I
literally never skipped once.
I also don't think Americans are as interested in avoiding two words at a time. Like, I think Australians are like allergic to saying more than one word.
We have playing hooky.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Classic. That's a classic Americanism.
A very, very cool word. Playing hooky. Cool phrase.
I always called it wagging. I've never heard of jigging, Reuben. Like I don't think you can even claim that's an Australianism. I think that's just a whatever school you went to ism.
I'm sure other people called it jigging.
I want to now. Sign up for a
it's
class,
a great word for it.
Just so I could. Would it be jig the class?
Yeah, you jig. You jig class. Anyway, so that's one meaning of cutting class, obviously. But the verb cutting is so evocative that I love it. Potentially a class where you learn to cut things. I'm not sure if we have any examples of that in this arc, but I thought it was fun.
The binding class in the flashback.
Oh yeah,
I have a very good one for cutting. Actually, you cut something in half, like our feud between our yeah. So you cut
that makes sense to me. So literally, the classes have been cut in half, right?
Yep, the sides have been divided.
Like when Alexander took over the class and a bunch of them just like left. He cut the class.
I like that. The other one that I thought of was cutting class. Maybe is probably a very real expression that means something like let's quit the bullshit, right? Cutting class, as in cutting the trappings of class, right?
Ooh, I like that, especially with like the social norms I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So cutting class, you could say, is cutting away the fineries and social trappings and social norms that have made the practitioner world terrible. Lucy is the epitome of cutting class. She gets right to the point. She cuts right to to the quick, and gets to the point. So maybe that's a meaning of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
think
like
the
that a lot.
textbooks. Yeah, I think the textbooks in this arc like really played up the like classism that exists between practitioners and others. So the idea that you're cutting away at that, or that it's a shitty and violent dynamic, like playing into the arc title, makes sense.
Mm.
So many
They
good
also just did
meanings.
sleep through a class. They did just skip one.
Oh, come on, Elliot. That's lame.
Literally did, in fact.
Yeah.
They're reading that chapter. Oh, this is it. This is where they cut the class.
Here it comes.
Check the box.
The one other thing that we always have to check in on, of course, is Sesh. Who do you think killed the Carmine Beast?
Okay, so in all of Wildbow's ratings, I have been a great judge of character, like who's going to be a friend or foe of the protagonist, mostly. Like, for example, small prediction here, I predict we will see a lot more of Clem, because she's just too fun not to have around.
I hope you're right.
I feel it. It's gonna happen. She's too great. Like, one comment about her, just before I get too into this prediction thing, is reading everything around her and that's happening to her. It's like watching every single supernatural horror movie ever. Like, she's just running into like, oh, is this a ghost or a haunted thing? Oh, this thing is like a little trinket that does this, and then like, oh no, that's just like some ghoul that's like following me in my attic, and like she's just living through every like all of these like tropey funny, well, not funny, but tropey like horror movies that have anything to do with like the supernatural, and it's just, I'm so entertained by it. Like, she's like so good.
I feel like she's at the point now where if she was to get like paranormal activity, she'd just be like,
Yes.
"Oh my god!"
Like, hasn't she been? Like, I mean,
Yeah, she probably has.
Yeah, like it's great. Like, she's so good. I feel like we're gonna discover one day that like, oh, Wildbow like actually started writing this story and it was just gonna be her. Like, the whole story was just gonna be her, and then we'll build from there. But now she's just in someone else's story. But she's great. Anyways,
sorry. Just to ask a follow up. If you think Clem's coming back, will we also get to see more of her best friend Sharon?
oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Can I just say, like, particularly, I mean, maybe, but I'm gonna jump on a limb here and say, particularly as an American, oh boy, reading her. Oh boy, it was familiar. And then later on, very juicy. We have to have her back, because I need to just not want to punch things, and it's good to be able to read things that make me feel like I'm punching things. It's very satisfying. So I hope she comes back and just has the worst time. I really do.
Yeah, it was concerningly fun to see her like stuck in the back of that car.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a word for this weird American phenomenon now. I love it. It's great. Just like, oh yeah, the skeptic. Yes, following all the science. Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. Uh-huh. I hate her so much. I love it. But yeah, so my big prediction here is, well, that Matthew let out the doom to kill the beast. And that's been said before, kind of, like him or Edith. But my bigger prediction is a two-parter. He did it because of an outsider who was plotting to kill the beast. I suspect somebody, specifically outside practitioners, intended to kill the beast and claim the power void, keeping order, for themselves. And by the local others doing the deed instead, it keeps the others in charge of Kenet. the other /
Ooh.
practitioner precedences that so many of the books and our friendly others and teachers keep talking about is going to be the big bad conflict of the story.
I really like this. I love the idea that we've been talking for so long about how surprisingly powerful the Kenetiers are, and therefore almost certainly there's some practitioners who want to take that power for themselves, right?
Mhm.
The twist, the idea of the Kenet others killing the Carmine Beast kind of preventatively to stop someone else claiming that power, I think is also delightful.
It's a really fun idea.
I just in these stories, I'm always looking for the bigger bad. What's the bigger thing around the corner? And I just think like something that was just totally able and easily just to take all this power and to be able to kill it, like would be really interesting because then our girls would have to go up against that.
So which practitioner do we think that's going to be? Do we
Oh
think
gosh,
Bristow or Alexander or someone else?
Nicolette.
Oh man, that I haven't quite gotten that far into it, but I do think they might be tied to Bristow or Alexander, but loosely. Like why he was looking into Kenet was maybe he got word that this other practitioner he knows of was looking towards, taking a power void there, and he got curious. But that's about as far as I am as far as that part of the prediction goes.
We do know that
Two-parter.
Y is away and is busy, but we don't know what he's doing.
Yes. It might just be a new one. Maybe they have a loose tie. I don't necessarily feel like any practitioners we've seen, it has like a direct hand in it. Like they might be related or something, but I don't think it's necessarily anyone we've actually met just yet. I could be totally wrong. Like I said, I with the big plot things like this, like the whoa, what's around the next corner? Somehow I am just always led astray. But we're gonna see Clem again. We're gonna see Clem again.
Wait, your theory that the Doom was released to do it made me think of an interesting question, which is like, do we think the Doom wants Edith to die or wants to be the one to kill her? Like, what if the Carmine Beast was coming to kill her and the Doom's like, hey, that's my job?
Ooh. Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
The Doom killed the Carmine Beast defending Edith. That's a crazy theory. I love it. It's
and
so
then like
crazy.
Matthew and Edith are just like, sorry.
Whoopsies. Oh my god.
It was just self-defense the whole time.
Oh, what a twist it would be. I love these theories. It's great. Do we have anything else that we want to touch on before we start to wrap up?
Oh boy. There's so much good in this.
Yeah, this has been such a wholesomely fun story. Like,
yeah,
it's always heartwarming once the violent, terrible things stop. But they do that a lot.
I mean, I can say I did really, really love when Kenet was being attacked. Like, just getting that little taste of all these terrifying others and, like, fighting them and running from them. That was... Because I'm a big horror movie fan, and so those were my chapters.
Yeah, the Avery fighting that pig dog guy.
Oh, he's great.
He's imprinted in my head for sure.
Yes. He's so awful. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Sesh. Actually, before we wrap up, I should say we're probably going to have a packed spoilers section at the end of this episode, but we'll do that after the outro. So if you're keen on hearing some thoughts with packed spoilers in mind, stick around. But for the rest of you, yeah, thanks for joining us, Sesh. It's been great having you on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a ton of fun.
No, of course. Would you like to let our listeners know where they can find you?
Yeah, they can find me basically on all the social medias. I do stream on Twitch under Sesh Evans, and I am on Twitter as Sesh Evans as well.
Yes, Sesh EVY. So search for that, and you'll easily find Sesh. Yeah, it's been great having you on the show. I really loved all of your wild predictions. I'm very much on board with most of them. So, yeah, good stuff. Actually, speaking of socials, if you want to check out the show, you can check out our Twitter as well, which is at Media MD Podcast or Pale Reflections. Which is it? I can't even remember.
It's
now.
at me. Pale Reflections was too long. They wouldn't let me
Right.
change it.
That's right.
Twitter's
so
really
yeah,
mean
just
about character.
find us on Twitter, I guess.
Don't forget to stop by the Doof Patreon as well, patreon.com/doofmedia. These shows wouldn't exist without our Patreon supporters.
Yes, and of course, while you're on Patreon, head on over to Wildbow's Patreon and make sure you support him as well, because of course, he creates all these fine words and worlds that we inhabit here in our show each week. Now, for those of you who haven't read Pact, get out of here. For the rest of you, let's go back to Pact. Sesh, you got a lot of stuff that you want to talk about that's Pact spoilers, huh?
I do have some. There's definitely some. I've been in the Wildbow worlds for a while now, so
Yeah, this is exciting because we actually we were going to have you on all packed up at one point, but it just didn't come together, unfortunately. So
yeah,
this will be a good
you got to
chance
make
to-
sure your notification settings are right on everything. Is what I have learned.
There's too many socials to keep up with. How can you?
It's
But so
true.
this this is great. Now we can finally do what we should have done months ago.
Oh yeah. There is one thing. It's more about. It's a little bit about your podcast and about Pact. And I think maybe even in a recent Pale Reflections podcast, it was asked, why is Wildbow giving us so much extra material? Like, is he reminding us / informing us of relevant things to the plot, or is he just making us go crazy? And I wanted to remind you, yeah, it's very possible, especially with him. And I wanted to remind you that I swear it was even back in Pact, we asked for more stronger opponents. We said we wanted textbooks of this world of Pact. And Wildbow is delivering it. So we are getting what we asked for.
Yeah, it is great. I mean, I remember when we had like the implement text and stuff in Pact. It was just so much fun. And these are just, again, so much fun to go through.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love the drawings too. Like, it's so much. It's so above and beyond. I love it.
Yeah, Wildbow has just blown me away with his art skills alongside writing in these extra materials. But yeah, it's definitely these textbook bits we got. Like the 3 we got here, I think it kind of wiped Wildbow out a bit because I think it was just after that he took his first ever week off. But like they were so amazing. Like thank you Wildbow for doing that because yeah, definitely a dream come true. I remember it was like our mantra in Deep Impact.
Yep.
That we wanted the textbooks in this world.
It really was. That's why I thought it was so funny you guys didn't immediately just say that in the podcast. Like, we got the textbooks we've been wanting. Yeah, no, it's really great. Like, he just goes above and beyond, and just like, a person shouldn't have like all those different kinds of talents, but I'll take it. It's great. Man, so I definitely have like a few other little interesting things, like tying Pact into like this world, because of course, I mean, if you've read that, you're gonna do that. Man, Blake was just so out of luck from the get-go. I know he had like bad karma and all of that, but like seeing these 3 connected girls who connected with probably mostly friendly others right away, and to see them go to an actual school for practitioners, and even though they are wild practitioners that are doing everything different, they are so much more connected and prepared for this world than Blake ever was. Like,
yeah,
by leagues.
I mean, imagine Blake getting 3 days to do the implement ritual. There's no way that would have happened.
And he needed it so badly. Man, he would have solved all of his own problems if he had that time to just sit and think.
Although, also, from my memory of Blake, he wouldn't have. He always, as much as he was pushed into more bad situations, he was also often running headfirst into them. He was not the
his
most patient
required
fellow.
no, his required like 3-day ritual would have been like 18 hours. He's like, I did enough. Some would have been nice for him. I think he really, man, he really got the short end of the stick. Like, it's like what could he do that these girls? I mean, he could drive. Like that's a problem they've had. They can't drive. Big deal.
Yeah, I'd take that trade.
Seriously. The
I mean,
other thing I didn't want to. Oh no, go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say, like, on the topic of like pact, like I can't, like this arc really hammered home these sorts of metaphors around like viewing others as like a group of people who are being like oppressed and stuff. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see Pale readers who go into pact second and like have this idea of like others as people who are being oppressed, and like I can just see some of them like meeting demons, and it's like, but these poor demons are being like
Yeah, they're gonna
oppressed.
be like, man, why are these demons so awful?
Like to see someone trying to defend them, it's like, oh, it's probably hype. Like the demons aren't actually as bad as everyone's making out. Just, like seeing,
Seriously. Yeah, like there's so many more like layers of like literal oppression to this. Like it's and like yeah, it's upsetting because like there was a little bit of that like argument or I guess conversation that was happening like, oh, are they like sentient or do they do good? Do they do bad? And like man, like that's it doesn't feel like they're just like forces of nature anymore. Like not with reading this one. Like a lot of the
yeah,
time, most of the time it felt like they were just, part of like nature and like the way things work
Mm.
and like they just there's no sentience there, there's no like thought there, there's no anything there. Like they're animals basically is how it was very much made out in Pact. And it's just that's definitely different now. And it's opening new doors.
I think demons and angels were set up as like different to all the others.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't think that happens quite at the start. So yeah, like I just can't wait for someone to come from Pale and find out Barbatorum has been locked in the basement for 50 years and think, oh, that poor fellow. Like, this is so mean of
Right?
these nasty Thorburns to lock up this poor other for 50 years, and then
Yeah.
Barbatorum's going to get out, and it's like, oh no, that was a good call.
Yeah. Oh man, like I remember there was a little bit of a conversation about like Rose even like, wait, so like is Rose like so like she's an other? Is she like your other? Like what are you gonna do? Are you gonna bind her? And it's kind of just like, wait,
Mm.
no, she's Rose. She
She's a
is
person, yeah.
I think. Yeah, like there was a little bit of that. And even like someone like her who was just so clearly aware, like even that conversation back then was like, ugh, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally.
I think like one other thing I've noticed in this one, and so it has me very curious, is the abyss. So in
Mm.
Pact, it was so mysterious and terrible, and I think if I'm remembering right, like I don't even know if it was mentioned before we were just thrown into it. Um, and in this story, it's been mentioned like offhand multiple times by like other students. It's like a known thing. It seems like less scary than it used to be, but it really, really makes me wonder like what horrible things there are still in this world that Wildbow has planned for us that we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, we kind of just have the vibe that everything in Pale is a little bit nicer. It has a little bit blunter edges than some of the stuff impacted, right? Like others, we don't have any others that are truly 100% evil, like we definitely did in Pact, right?
Yes.
We don't have anything that's like absolutely white and black morality to the same extent, right?
Mhm.
And I wonder whether it's a factor of we're seeing it through different eyes, or it's a factor of we're just not seeing the absolutely terrible parts of the world.
I
Yeah,
think
I
it's a
think
bit of both.
yeah, like it's probably a bit of both. Like it feels very much like it's different like different experiences right now. Like speaking of like black and white, like just to jump back into Pale for a little bit, like Ray
Mm.
Sunshine, like and how like Lucy was conflicted with like how she felt about him, that whole about like the his friend like being forsworn and like all of that. And man, I'd say like she was kind of too rough on him. Like it wasn't quite a black and white issue. Like he was kind of in a complicated feeling situation. And I think
Mm.
it's just like that, where it's just a little bit more complicated than it seemed in Pact. Like, I mean, like for me, like
Yeah.
the Abyss, like that concept of just like getting apparently thrown there, however, you go to the Abyss and like just being completely erased is like so terrifying. That's amazing. That's like one of the scariest things Wildbow's ever made. And it's interesting to me that it's kind of just like this known thing where it's like, oh yeah, you don't want to travel through there. Like,
Yeah.
like what? Like, how
I
is that
mean, but
even in the
maybe,
same sentence? Like,
yeah, maybe the fact that practitioners don't treat it like this, it's this crazy other thing, which it feels like to us, is an indication that actually the whole world is just this terrible.
right? Oh
Well,
man.
I think Blake probably copped the worst the Abyss had to offer as well, as he was wont to do. The universe liked to throw its worst at him.
Yeah, I think they mentioned that too. Like, don't be there if like you have a physical form, I think is what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he got sent there because he had all his connections cut, so he became something that was almost entirely just physical. So the Abyss was able to do all this terrible stuff to him. Whereas, like, if you think about the time he took, like, all of his cousins in, like, it wasn't a good
Mhm.
time. It's a shit place to be, but they came out human.
Yeah.
Um, like, it was just, yeah, it was just a bad place to visit.
Yeah, like it's just, I mean, conceptually, like what happens like when you're gone and in the Abyss, super terrifying, like the non-existence thing. I think you guys even brought up how like one of the things I remember, because I remember thinking about it, but you guys brought it up, was like, oh, Blake just doesn't use a cell phone, but he definitely has a cell phone in the earlier chapters before he gets thrown into the Abyss. Like even like little details like that, and just like that total erasure is just so. Oh, what a great concept. And then it's also awful for you presently while you're there.
Mm.
Yeah. I I'm really torn between wanting the Kenneteers to have to go there just because I think it would be funny, but I imagine Wildbow's leaving the Abyss as like, if you're meant to be able to go from Pale to Pact, I could see him not wanting to touch it because he wants the Abyss to hit in Pact still.
Right.
Um, but it would be so hilarious for Avery to end up there. Just
Oh
'cause she's the
gosh.
one who keeps being like, "Oh, the Abyss. We went to the ruins. It's like the ruins, right?" And everyone's always like,
Hmm.
I just think it'd be hilarious if Avery accidentally took a wrong turn on her pathfinding and ended up in the Abyss.
Oh boy. Yep.
Oh God.
Oh boy. Yeah. That's where we're gonna formalize the familiar relationship. Like, quick, we need more power. Um, yeah, I think that's it for me, and for Pact. I got a couple of Wildbow overall things, but extra spoilers.
Extra overall spoilers, yeah.
Another
Double
extra
spoilers.
spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah, another one. I it's not a huge one, I'm sure. But yeah, I am already having a spark of looking forward to Wellbow's next book. I am guessing is going to be a sequel to Twig.
I wonder if that's true or not. I mean, I see the pattern, but I wonder.
I think Wildbow said when he started Pale, it wasn't like his intention to do another pact after another Parahumans.
I mean, yes, it
Yeah.
wasn't his intention, but it's happening. So
Yeah.
Well,
maybe
see,
it is just the Wildbow cycle.
It's I hope that's his cycle. I really do, because and it could go either way. Like it doesn't have because I mean obviously like Worm and Ward, like those were like direct sequels. Like it really was. Like there's just so much of what happened in Worm that you need to enjoy Ward more. And this, I don't feel like that's existing in this story at all. Like it just feels like it's the same world. It doesn't feel like a sequel. Like there's references to things, but it's just like light references. It's like the Abyss. It's like it's not nearly as tied or connected. Like none of these main characters were seen in the other book. So I think he could definitely do a sequel, and I have no opinion either way. I would love it if we're just back in that world. regardless of who our main characters are.
I didn't make it far enough in Twig to know how desperately that world needs. I guess when I finished Pact, I was like, we have to come back to this world. It's so like Pact felt like it barely scratched the surface. I didn't read enough of Twig to know if if I was just going to be like, we need more of this. I probably would, because I felt that way about every Wildbow work, I suppose.
It's just so well. It's very well done, and there's a lot of great friendly monsters in it. Like, it doesn't seem like it's quite, like there's necessarily another layer to unveil in that one as much as these other stories. But damn, it's good, and I definitely see more of it happily.
Here's my alternative pitch to Wildbow's future roadmap of stories. After Pale, we do another Pactverse story. Then we do another Pactverse story after that.
Yeah, okay.
And then we do the fifth and final standalone Pactverse story. See, all of these are the same as Pale. You don't need to have read the others. Because then we move into the sixth one, which is like an Avengers style team up. We get
crossover.
We get the Kenneteers. We get
Blake
all
and the Kenneteers and Rose all together. Evan gets to meet Snowdrop, the crossover we've all been waiting for.
Some of my friends have been talking about these crossovers. You get these sequels. Each one of these is going to be a trilogy, and then there's going to be a seventh one, and that's where all of the worlds collide.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright, so since this is my first time being able to speak about Wildbow specifically on any of the Doof Media cast stuff, it's always been something else that I've been go-to guest for. Having the chance just to talk about his writing outside of just saying it's amazing, I have to say I've been following along for now approaching like 7 years, and I just need to add that he's fantastic at writing women and girls. It's so wonderful to have such diverse characters and personalities, and them all being believable and realistic and interesting. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I obviously can't speak to that from my own experiences, but I do distinctly remember I got my sister to read Worm shortly after I did, and she finished it, and we were talking, and I used like the pronoun he to talk about Wildbow as we're talking about it, and she was like, "Oh, isn't the author a woman?" And I was like, "No, like Wildbow uses he pronouns. He's definitely a man." And she was like, "Oh, I just assumed like Taylor was so well written. She just assumed Wildbow was female because Taylor was so believable and realistic that it had to have been a woman who wrote that."
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just so good at characters. Like, he just absolutely is fantastic at, like I said, like, not just making interesting characters, but making them so realistic and believable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. Anything else that we want to touch on while we're all in this group together?
I think that's it for show stuff for me. If you wanted to talk more movie terms, I'll
all right, dream casting for the Kenneteers. Who have you got?
Oh.
I mean, all right, let's start here. Anya Taylor-Joy has really been making a name for herself recently with Queen's Gambit, and she was in Emma. She'd be a great Verona. Put that out there.
1000%.
Who else?
What was her name? For both our other two, though, I'm feeling older. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm assuming, like, because I'm just not familiar with any actresses who are like 13. Like, I'm assuming we're talking like an aged up set of Kenneteers.
Well, usually, like, you'd get someone who's 15 or 16 to play a 13-year-old, right? That's about right.
They do that. Be something they like definitely do that. Yeah, that'd be tough. I definitely picture them like very vividly. Gosh, I'm trying to think of the movie because I swear like I picture like a very specific actress for Avery, and I'm trying to think of what the movie was. It was like some Disney one, just that like short kind of cherry blonde hair and the freckles. Like I can't remember the name of it. It's one of like their live action sports things, as Disney does.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Sesh.
I'm trying to think of an actress, and I can't even think of the movie. That's my problem. Let's see. Huh.
Who was the daughter in Us?
That's who I'm looking for as well. Damn it.
Because she was great.
I've been
Yes.
sniped.
So it was, I think it was, I'm looking at IMDb now. Oh no, wait. Is this no? Well, post in the comments your dream fan casting for the Kenneteers, I guess.
It's like I don't know teenage actors.
We can't just spend the rest of this episode on IMDb, folks.
Oh, okay. There was a girl in Love, Simon, who I think might potentially be a good Lucy.
All right.
Well, I'd have to dive into that to even find the name.
All right, folks.
Great
thanks
recording.
For joining us.
Wait. I guess this one's for all the Australians out there, but we just de-age and redo the girls from the Saddle Club, Reuben.
Oh, okay. Wait, okay. The Saddle Club. I'm trying to. I'll be honest. The only person I can remember from the Saddle Club is Veronica, who was the villain of the show. So I don't know if I'm doing well.
I think the Saddle Club's Australian.
No, I think it is.
Oh, Australian Canadian, actually. Apparently.
Oh, there you go. So the perfect casting for a Wildbow live action film.
I mean, yeah.
All right, folks. I guess that's that. Thanks for joining us. Sesh, again, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great having you.
Thank you so much again for having me. Always a blast.
Well, we'll see you next time.